When is the best time of year to sell a car to get the most money?
Oh, this one is a very easy one. So the best time of year to sell your car is going to be right when tax season hits. So end of February, beginning of March, spring selling season is why it's called that. It's the best time to actually move a car. If you're a used car dealer, if you're an individual want to move a car. But I will tell you the inverse of that, absolute worst time of the year for you to buy a car. Prices are at the highest that they are all year round. Dealers are the least negotiable. Tell you for us, what we do, we're going to try to have 150 cars at tax time. And what we usually do is if we have a car sit for 2 weeks, we drop the price by $500 every 2 weeks. Tax time, I don't got to do that. So right at the end of January, middle of January, we stop cutting our prices altogether because we know that we're not going to be able to replace all these cars that we're going to sell in the middle to end of February. So we even change our pricing model of how we operate during this time because after tax time hits, I can't go to auction and go buy any more cars. So I have to have those 150 cars last me for the next month and a half before I can actually go in and prices come back to what is semi-normal. They'll still be elevated at the end of tax season because there'll be dealers that are still trying to load up. But we basically have to go on vacation from buying cars as soon as tax checks hit because prices spike. And when I tell you spike, the cars that I buy, if I'm buying like a 2002, 2003 Toyota Camry, that's $2,000 to $2,500 right now. When tax checks hit and dealers have to go reload their inventory for this level of car, then that same car that I was buying for $2,500, it's going to go for $4,000 at auction. I'm not interested because if I'm buying that car for $2,500, I sell it for $3,500. Now that car's going for $4,000 at auction. That means I have to sell it for $5,000 or $5,500 on my lot. It's not worth that. But people are still paying those prices, so dealers will still pay those prices at auction. And what ends up happening is a lot of dealers get stuck because this whole market, a lot of used car dealers, they're very reactionary. So tax checks hit, they're not prepared for it. They sell out all their inventory, then they rush to auction and they do all this FOMO buying, and they pay whatever it costs to reload the lot. But just as soon as the tax money gets here, it vanishes because everyone spends it very, very quickly. And if you're not ready for it, then the 2 weeks after the tax checks hit, well, nobody's buying any more cars because they already bought when they initially got their check, right? So these dealers will pay way too much for these cars, and then they'll be stuck with them. So we have like this mini crash that happens like right in the beginning of summer of every single year because all these dealers that paid way too much for these cars, well, they have to now dump them because their floor plans, their interest is getting is going up after that 60-day time period that they hold those cars, and they can't sell them because there's no money in the system anymore. So there's just this massive dump from all of these car dealers where the prices, they'll spike up, they'll go up. Like I said, I mean, in a lot of cases, probably 30-40% on average across the market, but then they'll drop in by 30-40, even sometimes more than that after all the tax season, the FOMO, all of it subsides and goes away. Then that's when I'll go back in and start buying again. So I've been doing it for 14 years. Happens the exact same way every single year, no matter what the economic climate is, no matter what inflation's doing, no matter what prices. I mean, people always buy all of my cars right at tax time, and then dealers go in and prices go way up, and then there's always a crash right in the beginning of summer. Every single year happens every single year, exact same way.
How long does it take for your dealership to get the title on a car? Is it usually consistently a certain number of days, or is it sometimes longer or shorter number of days from purchase or inspection?
Now, when we go and actually buy cars at auctions, we don't get titles. So these franchise dealers that take these trade-ins, sometimes when they take the trade-ins, they don't even get the title from the customer, and the car winds up at the auction the next day after they traded for it, and that franchise dealer still doesn't have that title in their hand. So in, I would say 95% of cases when I go and buy cars from auctions, I don't have a title whenever I buy it. They can transfer the ownership of the vehicle through the bill of sale in North Carolina from dealer to dealer. So we're able to basically own the car as far as our insurance is concerned. We can put tags on it. We can get it back to our dealership. But then we start getting cars ready, and it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks before we actually get the title on that car. I would guess the average amount of time that it takes from us purchasing the car at auction to actually getting the title to our dealership is probably somewhere around 2 weeks. Now, there are some cases where there's a lien on the title. There's some kind of problem where somebody sold a car that they don't actually own to the franchise dealer, and the franchise dealer didn't actually do the work that they needed to do to find out who actually owned the car. And we can have cases where we buy a car and we have to actually give the car back to the auction and get our money back because there was just a bad title situation. And in the worst case scenarios, we go through and we'll sell a car. We don't have a title for it yet. I'll let you know how we're able to do that. And then the title never shows up because there's some kind of title issue. And then it's on me to make the customer that I sell my car to whole. So that's a big time problem, risk that we actually have to deal with at our used car dealership. And it ends up costing me a lot of money because, one, I've got to unwind the deal. So I've got to, at the very bare minimum, give the customer their money back. And that just means that they can have a free car for 2, 3, 4 weeks, however long it takes us to realize that we're not going to be able to get that title. And then usually what ends up happening is when they bring the car back, we let them get another car, and it's usually one that costs more than the original car that they purchased, because I want them to be happy. It's a crappy situation, and it's one that's out of my control. But at the end of the day, it's even a worse situation for the customer that bought the car from me. And I want to make sure that they're happy. So usually they end up getting a car that's 500, sometimes even more than that, more expensive of a car that we trade them out for. So they're always happy with the situation because they get an upgrade. Or if it's a car that they bought and a month later they realize that they might not, they want to try to go find something else, then they get the option to just get out of the car too. So they have lots of options, and I don't have any when that situation arises. Now, we would rather obviously sell the car when the title is in hand, because then there's no situation at all, but it just doesn't line up like that all the time. We like to turn and burn cars, do it very quickly, and that means we have to sell a lot of these cars before we actually get title in hand. So now in North Carolina, we have some paperwork that we're able to actually sell a car legally to a customer without having title in our possession. It's called title in transit. Just means that we know that the title's coming to us from the auction. At least it's promised to us from the auction. So then we're legally able to sell one, but we can only sell that particular car to an in-state resident that we're going to get the car registered for. And I know I've had a lot of customers that come from out of state, customers that found me on YouTube, and they see a particular car that I have for sale on my lot. They come to try to buy the car without calling us or asking about the car first. They just show up, and they're from South Carolina, they're from Virginia, they're from Tennessee, whatever. And because they're out of state and I don't have that title in my hand, I can't sell them the car. Because think about the logistics of this. In North Carolina, I can register a car for a customer in North Carolina, but I can't register a car for a customer in South Carolina, in Tennessee, and in Virginia. So I have to physically give them the title so they can go get that car registered. And that's why we can't sell a car without a title to an out-of-state resident. I've had quite a few people very upset with my sales manager when they call and say, okay, I saw this car on YouTube. I want to come buy this car, and I'm on my way right now. And Nate's like, you know what? We can't do it because we don't have a title in hand. I wish we could help you with it, but our hands are tied by the laws of North Carolina. So that's why we don't do it. And if you're ever upset about that, and I'm assuming that we've had quite a few questions about this because there have been instances from people calling from YouTube to try to buy a particular car, and we can't sell it to them. So there are protections around there, so we don't have any kind of big time paperwork problems going overstate. North Carolina, I can handle stuff. I can do things in North Carolina to figure out paperwork problems. If you go to South Carolina, anywhere else, I can't help with that. So that's why it's a very strict rule for us to make sure that if we have title, We can sell it out of state, but if we don't have a title, we can only sell in state. And that's a rule, a law that we have to abide by. And we have paperwork that allows us to do that. But if it's out of state, can't help. All right, where is my car dealership? So I don't ever give this out. And the reason being is because I don't want YouTube to be a billboard for my car dealership. If you want to find out where it is, you can figure it out. Use AI, use Google, and you can find us. I promise. But I'm not trying to give you car advice, car buying advice, and then be like, okay, well, here's this Hyundai right behind me. You should buy it. So, because if I'm telling you something that you should do in the car market, but then you feel like I'm also trying to sell you a product, it's going to come across a much different way. There are a lot of other creators that sell products while they're also giving you advice on what to do in the car market. I think that the information can come a little bit backhanded when that happens. It seems like you can't get real information from someone who's trying to directly sell you a product. At least it's going to feel like that from the consumer standpoint, right? So I don't want to be the person that's trying to give you advice and then also try to peddle my wares to you, right? It doesn't feel right. And I want to make sure that I'm staying true to what we're trying to do here on YouTube. Now, there could be a scenario at someday if the car market goes really, really bad, then I'll start peddling my wares to you because we'll need to make money. But at this point, we're okay, and the car market's not great, but we're still doing okay. And I think us being on the lower end spectrum of pricing has really helped us a lot when a lot of these mid-tier to larger dealers are really hurting right now because a lot of their customer base is having to shift to what we sell, right? So we've got to experience some advantage to a weaker market. And also that means that our prices have been a little bit cheaper at auction from what we've been able to buy. So we've actually been able to buy a lot more cars here lately too. That's why I don't give out my car dealership. It's just because I don't want to be a shady used car dealer that's trying to tell you, okay, now's the time to buy, so you should come buy my car. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that.